Okay, welcome. As we all know, Sucker Punch, the developer, and Sony Interactive, the publisher, is back with a sequel. I guess not really a sequel, actually, but a standalone successor from Ghosts of Tsushima. We got Ghost of Yotei, the action adventure, open world style, released October 2nd. Now I have my friend Zach with me. Zach, welcome. Thank you for coming on.
Good to be here.
I'm going to proclaim you, Zach. I'm going to proclaim you as a gamer's gamer. All right. You know how they use the term
Okay.
like a man's man, like, oh, he's a man's man. Well, you're a gamer's gamer. You crush through games. You've played a lot, and I trust your opinion. And I know this because I work with your wife. And shout out Jess, she's a great gal.
Yeah.
So I'm always like, what's he playing? What's he doing? So even when she's at work, she can't even escape the video game. So just so you have that peace of mind.
Good. Yeah.
All right. So Zach, I have something to say.
Uh-huh.
It's not new news that this game's release was shadowed by some political drama, right? And we're not
Yes.
going to dive into that. Some things were said, some people got mad, some people boycotted, some people got fired, et cetera, et cetera. And that's pretty interesting because it really has illustrated how entangled the gaming developers and the public discourse can become. So all that being said, I'd like you and me to just take a step back from all this craziness and kind of separate ourselves from the political drama. And really what I want to do is just enlighten the people listening into whether this is objectively a good game, a great game, mediocre, bad, whatever.
Absolutely.
So I have a rule, a number review to start between 1 to 10. Now, I did not play this game that much. I played it a little bit. I don't feel fair giving it a number rating. I did watch a full playthrough. I do not have a PS5, but Zach, I know you put some hours in. How many hours you put in, roughly?
It's about 60 or 70 hours I put into this
Nice.
game. Yeah.
Yes. And you just beat it pretty recently, right? Like a day or two ago, right?
Yeah. Just a couple days ago.
Nice.
Saturday.
Nice. All right, so I'll have you give me a rating, 1 to 10. Tell me what you think. What do you got?
I think it's a good 8,
Nice.
8.4 score.
Nice. Solid.
Very similar to Ghost of Tsushima. Very similar. They
Mhm.
do a few things better, but it's a very, very solid game. Not game of the year. A lot of good
Yeah.
games, but very solid.
Dude, that's so true because this year, 2025 in general, has just been such a great year in gaming. Dude.
Mhm.
There's been a lot of big time releases this year. So I have a quick question for you because I've watched a lot of reviews on this game. I've been following a lot of the news. So what I want to ask you is do the great visuals, the technical polish, and the slightly refined combat outweigh the dull story and pretty much same exact open world concept as Tsushima?
I think so.
Mhm.
Does a lot better on the overall combat. You start out as, the Anyo, and you can already tear through people, which is a little bit different than what you had in Ghost of Tsushima from the very beginning,
Right.
with the new feature that you have to throw katanas,
Yes. Yeah, that
which
looked
is
cool.
honestly game changing.
Wow.
That is so much fun. There's an armor set that you can get early on in the game, and I won't spoil anything about it. But one of the big things about it is that you get more katana drops, more spear drops.
Nice.
So you can just tear through hordes of enemies pretty early on in the game, which makes for a much better, much more kinetic fighting style.
Yeah.
So you still have those one-on-one battles, which is very similar to the first game. There's a
The
battle
standoffs, right?
yeah, the standoffs. There's one in this game which is hands down one of my favorite boss battles of all time.
All
I
right.
won't spoil or anything because it's later on in the game,
Nice.
but the visuals about it are amazing. The combat is just so much fun.
Let's talk about the combat a little bit. And Ghost of Tsushima did this perfectly. And the katana combat, the animation. So it seems like Yotei, it didn't seem like they were trying to reinvent the wheel. And correct me if I'm wrong.
No.
Again, I played a little bit. They kept the same formula, but they added. They had the mid combat switching, right? They had different weapons you could use. That was interesting. You said about the katana because hey, that's a one shot kill, right? That's a ranged. Boom, that person's dead over there. Let me go back to this guy, right?
Yeah.
And how'd you like the mid-combat switching? I've heard some mixed reviews. You had the dual katanas, you had the Odachi, which was pretty much the big-ass sword. There were a couple other options. What'd you think?
I loved it. You still
Nice.
had so you had the stances in Ghost of Tsushima. They were called stances back then. You would use the triangle stance to go against shielded enemies. It's still very similar,
Nice.
except you just have different weapons which have different move sets. My one problem with Ghost of Tsushima is that there wasn't really a different move set. You just held your katana differently.
Right.
Now
Yeah.
you have a different move set. You have an entirely different set of weapons. You have five different set of weapons that you can use, five different ranged weapons that you, sorry, four different ranged weapons you can use, and
Wow.
then I think it's five different quick tool ones that you can use mid combat.
Interesting.
So you can use your Kurigama, which makes it a little bit more of a ranged fight for the most part.
Yeah. Yeah. It looked like the pickaxe. That was a pretty cool thing. Like the chain,
Yep,
right? That was the chain, the Kasirigama.
yep. And it
Yeah.
also adds a little bit to the stealth as well. You can pull people to you. And,
Hmm.
if you have an enemy that's making you a little bit mad, just go full Itachi and just start going ham.
Dude, I love it. I love it.
Hmm.
The combat definitely seemed denser. Even from the little bit that I played, it wasn't just too repetitive. Perhaps like if that was a knock in Tsushima, you know what I mean? That repetitive combat. Brought back I saw they brought back like the tint or the glow that were like, if the yellow glow that an enemy would flash, it means they're trying to disarm you. The blue or
Hmm.
white glow, you have to parry. That was pretty much, was that the same as Tsushima? Did it seem?
I don't. There wasn't disarming in Ghost of Tsushima,
Okay.
but you had the blue glint, which you had
Yes.
to parry, and then you had the red glint, which you had to dodge. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but
Yes, yes,
I
yes,
believe it's
yes.
very similar.
So, yeah, the combat, again, I've heard some mixed things. The one knock I heard, and I don't know if this is true or not, but that if, like, let's say if the opponent has a spear and you're fighting, do you have to switch to dual katana, or is it oh you can pick whatever weapon you want to fight with?
Honestly, it's more up to you on how you want to. There were several fights where I just felt like, I'm going to go in pure samurai. I'm just going to
Yeah.
go with my katana, and I'm going to fight this group of enemies with honor. And then there were fights where I pulled out my adachi, and I was like, all right, I've had enough. But
Hmm.
it's much more varied. So if you're having trouble with a fight, then you definitely want to pull out your dual katanas. If somebody has a yari, you want to pull out your yari. If someone's fine with dual sickles,
Hmm.
I think that the combat would get much more evolved once you get to hard or lethal. Definitely. I played on medium the entire time except for one fight which I played on easy. Um,
Gotcha. Yeah, sometimes you got to do what you got to do to progress, right?
yep.
I'm
Uh-huh.
guilty of
So
that as well.
after dying 20 times and getting mad, I just okay, let's go with casual here or easy.
Right, right, right. Absolutely. All right. Well, nice. Well, gameplay, and then next area I want to hit. I want to talk about the exploration, the world design a little bit. Now, I have a quote, and I want to see if you agree with this. So, Roland Bishop from Games Radar, which is who I follow, he said this about the world design. He said, "Wandering around Ghosts of Yotei is always purposeful. The developers went out of their way to include so many different methods of pointing you towards something interesting that it never ever felt like I was lost." So that Ron, he had a good thing to say, but then I've also heard that the open world and the side quests were overwhelming. That it was just kind of like there was nothing that was anything specific to the main plot. I know it was a shift from Tsushima because there were distinct regions that kind of each had its own flora, climate, challenges, and landmarks, etc. And I
Hmm.
know that Yote uses more subtle visual cues on the map. They're not holding your hands with mini maps or heavy marker Latin maps, but they brought back the wind blowing to guide you instead of the quest marker, right? You had to mark things with a spyglass. I saw was a pretty cool change.
Hmm.
And I guess some environmental signs. So I wanted to see what you thought about the world design and the different regions through the game.
Yeah, I'll talk about what I liked a lot and what I didn't like here in a
Yeah,
second. But
great,
what I liked a lot is, yeah, there was no hand holding. If you never want to open up your map, you do not have to. Some of the art of this game is just getting lost. I
nice.
mean, the world design is just amazing.
It looked
You
great.
have,
Yeah,
yeah, the visuals are astounding in this game. And so getting lost is so much fun. Eventually, you'll find a yellow bird, and it'll take you to some treasure. You'll find a fox. It'll take you to some. You'll hear a wolf howl in the distance, and you're like, oh,
right.
there's a wolf den nearby.
Uh huh.
Or My favorite thing is just getting on the horse and then going tackling some of Saito's men.
Yeah,
If you're lost, you're playing the game right.
right.
It's not like The Witcher 3, which is another fantastic game, of course,
Great game.
where
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, where you're just checking off question marks.
Yes. Yeah, it gets a little repetitive.
Yeah, that's what I have a hard time in open world games. All that being said, and I know I'm kind of going to go back on what I just said a little bit.
Go ahead.
If you're 100% completionist like I am, yeah, it does burn you out a little bit. There were a
Mhm.
couple times where, I finished the Oni's area and I had to take a couple day break. I just couldn't play anymore. Like I played for 10 hours straight and now I need to take a little bit of a rest.
Right, right,
So
right.
I definitely had to take a break after each area, but when you're getting lost in the game, it's still a lot of fun. But when you're 100% completionist, it definitely does get a little tiring because it is a little samey. It's just like
Hmm.
Ghost of Tsushima, where you have the same kind of things that you're doing.
Hmm.
Whether it's making a poem or drawing in this game, which is equivalent, or
Right.
there's a foxden, which is the same in both games. So
Yes.
it's still very samey after a while, but
Uh-huh.
still fun at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that they rewarded exploration and what
Yes.
seemed like, would you say, like organic discovery, I guess, of the area.
Yes.
I mean, that's true to the open world style. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And I like that aspect. So, sometimes a game gets too much like, hey, here's the direction you need to go. Now go do it or fast travel there. Like you said, Witcher 3, perfect example.
Yeah.
So it seemed like Yotei kind of lets you soak in the journey a little bit and appreciate that aesthetic and just traveling on horseback, which was kind of like a Red Dead Redemption 2 style, which I loved as well. So,
Yes.
all right, here's something that I've kind of heard some mixed reviews on. Let's talk about the story, Zach. Let's talk about the story. So, typical dull revenge plot, or was there a little bit more to it?
If I would have only played the first few hours of the game, we'll just say 20 hours of the game, I
Okay.
would say it's a revenge plot. It's very basic and very simple.
Uh huh.
There was a lot that I liked about this story versus Ghost of Tsushima, and there
Mm-hmm.
was a lot that I liked about Ghost of Tsushima versus this game. The
Sure.
overall story of Lord Shimura and God, I can't remember his name.
Jin?
Jin, thank you, Jin Sakai.
Yeah.
Um, their dynamic was so much better in the first game. You're not going to get that from this game at all.
Mm-hmm.
But all the side stuff was
Mm-hmm.
a little mixed for me in Ghost of Tsushima. That was honestly the boring part of the game. Was like I liked Yuna fine, but like talking to Yuna, who cares? A little bit.
Right, right, right. I hear you. That's a fair point.
Yeah.
There were some twists and turns in the story I saw, and you're right. The Ghost of Tsushima and Jin's turn from being a strict samurai to all of a sudden having to revert to these ninja-like styles that's not
Mhm.
true to his ways, and his relationship with his you just said his name's uncle. Shoot.
Shimura. Well, his
Shimmer, yeah,
father.
Lord Shimmer. Yeah, Lord
Yeah.
Shimmer. Yes, exactly. And then in this one, clearly Atsu has no problem being the ghost style. You know what I mean? So
Uh,
so that was a pretty interesting little take there. So side quests a little bit better, sounds like you said, in Yotei compared to Tsushima. Main quest perhaps not as good.
all the side quests are a lot more entertaining in this game, and that might just be a personal opinion here, but I
Yeah.
do feel like the side quests were much more interesting throughout the entire game. It's still not the highlight of the game. It's just better than Ghost of Tsushima. The overall plot of the game, I don't feel like it is just strict revenge style. She does go through some personal growth. It's just a
Mhm.
very slow burn.
Yeah.
If you've ever played like Days Gone, where it's a very slow burn throughout the entire game until you get to the end, same thing here. Very, very slow burn. At the very beginning, it's like, okay, yeah, I get it. You want to kill everybody. Got it.
Yeah.
Same.
I
But
got you.
by the time that you get to the end of the game, you're like, oh, okay, this is much more interesting now than just checking off names on her cloth.
Right, right, right. Yeah, checking off names on a list. Exactly,
Hmm.
exactly. But one more area. Let's see. Actually, two more areas. Let's talk about. Oh yeah, let's talk about sound and voice acting. Listening to it. Erika Ishii, who played Atsu.
Mhm.
Say what you want about her. People have their opinions. I think she did a phenomenal job with her voice acting.
Agreed.
Yeah, it really, with the cutscenes I was watching, I found myself getting lost. You know what I mean? Rarely, sometimes you have those games that drag. You're skipping the dialogue, you're skipping the cutscenes. Didn't seem like I wanted to do that too much with this one, man. What are your thoughts on the voice acting and the sound in general?
I 100% agree. I found Atsu to be so much more interesting than Lord Sakai, than
Mhm.
Jin from the
Yeah,
first game. Jin was okay. He was a perfectly fine protagonist. I just didn't feel overly rooting for him the entire time.
right.
Atsu, honestly, I was rooting for her the entire time. She was
Yeah,
so much more fun as just a character in general, and the voice acting was top of the line
yeah, dude,
throughout the
I
entire thing.
agree. Yeah, that's
Mhm.
one thing I can comment on having simply watched it. The voice acting again, top notch. Yeah, Jin was a little flat at times. I think it was good. I didn't think it really added anything to the story. I think the story was great, and that's why
Agreed.
Ghost of Tsushima was great. But yeah, you're right, dude. Atsu, I found myself getting lost. I was rooting for her. Much more sarcastic, much more personality. I'll say,
Hmm.
you know what I mean. So
Yes.
so that was a good improvement. General sound of the game. Sometimes this is hard to rate. Sometimes it's hard to screw up for games, but some games do it great, others don't. Any remarks there?
I really like the sound design of the entire game. I mean, there are several times where you're next to a waterfall and you can hear the waterfall behind you, and just the ambient noise of it is really nice. You also
Mhm.
have quite a few different modes too. You have I believe it's
Yes.
called the Watanabe mode, where
Yes.
if I'm not mistaken, it takes out all of like it just leaves ambient sound.
Interesting. Yeah, they had the Kurosawa mode, which
Yeah,
like the cinematic visual mode I think that was in Tsushima too, if I
yep,
remember
there's come back.
correctly.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you have a few different modes for the sound throughout the entire thing. It's not breaking any barriers as far as like other games have done it equally well or better,
Hmm.
but still a very solid audio game. If that makes any
Nice.
sense.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. All right, man. Last thing I want to hit on. Did you play is it PS5 or PS5 Pro? Which one do you have?
The PS5.
How did it run? How was the performance on it?
I didn't have a single issue the entire time. It looked great.
Yeah, I know that the developers really didn't have to like spend too much money in the development process of the game, and people were questioning whether or not it would run. But that's one area I haven't seen any complaints about. We just reviewed Borderlands 4, which has
Mhm.
been an absolute mess. I don't know if you've been
Yeah,
following that
yeah,
at all, but
yeah, a
we've
little
been
bit.
doing a co-op like playthrough and run through with that on the channel, and yeah, there's someone will just start floating up in the air. We'll be like, "Yo, where you going, dude?" So someone's stuck in the ground. Other people's guns don't work. The game's crashing. Takes forever to load up. So you hear all these crazy graphics and these. Oh, you have to get a whole new play on PC, so you get a whole new graphics card, all this and that, and it still doesn't run well, and that's really frustrating when you're spending that money.
Mhm.
So I think
Yeah,
Ghost of Yotei looks outstanding. I'm not even going to say, oh yeah, it looks good. I think it looked great from what I was watching, and the fact that it's running pretty well. I mean, the PS5 is a beast. So
yeah.
nice, man. Well, that's kind of everything I wanted to cover. Any final remarks? Do you feel like we hit everything that you wanted to chat about?
Yeah, I think we hit just about everything. The one thing that I will say is if you liked Ghost of Tsushima, you're gonna love this game.
Nice. That's well
Yeah.
said. I think a lot of the people looking at the reviews are people who played Tsushima and are thinking, "Hey, I love Tsushima. Is this worth buying?" Because there's been a lot of perhaps negative news about it because of the political backlash and things like that. So, is it worth buying it? Well, shoot, Zach, I trust your opinion, brother. You're
Yep.
you're a
Got
gamer's gamer. If you're saying buy it, I'm gonna buy this game, brother. So I appreciate you coming on, man. I appreciate you taking some time and dropping some good knowledge about Ghost of Yotei.
absolutely. Thank you for having me on.
You got it.